My name is Eamon Cullen. Over a year ago, I sat in a lecture hall in Dublin City University, Ireland. I vaguely remember reading the words "flow state" on the wall as it was projected at the top of the class. That night, I had a dream. In that dream, I was told that the key to human happiness, academic success, a healthy body, a healthy mind, and spiritual fulfillment all lay in one simple word. And that word was flow. At the time, I thought little about the word, the concept, or even the dream. Over the following months, the pieces of the jigsaw began to be pieced together. And now I want to share with you the flow state, the key to happiness, health, and human potential. Happiness remains as the primary goal for mankind. As humans, we take action for two primary reasons: to seek pleasure or to avoid pain. Biologically, we are hardwired to seek out pleasures that meet our basic needs of survival. For this reason, we are attracted towards food, sex, entertainment, comfort, and material possessions. In our modern society, exposure to pleasure is more accessible than ever before. However, despite the abundance of stimulation that we are taught to attain, our population is no more fulfilled than generations past who lacked the comforts that we take for granted. Instead, many are experiencing an increase in anxiety, boredom, and overall lack of fulfillment. With this in mind, it may be time for us to review our concepts on happiness. So what is flow state? Flow is commonly referred to by many as the zone. The definition that we will use is an altered state of consciousness whereby an individual performing an activity is immersed in a feeling of energized hyperfocus, full involvement, and enjoyment of the activity. In this state of consciousness, it feels as though you can do no wrong. Flow has been assigned many labels. In comedy, it is known as the pocket. It is known to runners as runner's high, rappers as flow, and as we mentioned earlier, the zone for a variety of other activities. I want to direct your attention to the research of Dr. Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi, who much of the material in this documentary can be originally attributed to. Dr. Mihaly conducted a global study consisting of several thousand participants on the subject of well-being. Over the period of several years, carrying out detailed interviews, questionnaires, and data analysis, his efforts were heavily rewarded through the discovery of a common theme among people from all walks of life, throughout social class, age, gender, and cultures. Mihaly's research was conducted using an experienced sampling method, whereby participants were randomly asked to rate their levels of enjoyment during different times of the day. Mihaly concluded that throughout the lives of all these people, they were most fulfilled while in a state of full absorption in what they were doing, otherwise known as the flow state. Using this knowledge, flow has the potential to improve the quality of our life. However, most shockingly, the research of Dr. Mihaly showed that when people invested large amounts of money into pursuing leisure, such as an expensive cruise, a social event, or through the use of expensive resources, they were significantly less happy than when engaged in an inexpensive activity, such as doing a sport or a leisurely walk. What this means for mankind is that each of us have an infinite accessibility to daily happiness at our fingertips. A considerable element of happiness can therefore be attributed to flow state, or times of complete absorption in an activity. The reason for this finding is quite simple. A wandering mind typically falls into thought patterns associated with worry, anxiety, and fixation on life events. Flow has been compared to the popular rising field of mindfulness, and can be looked upon as a moving meditation. This process involves bringing a person's attention into the present moment and adopting a state of awareness. Clinical psychology has developed a number of therapeutic applications based on mindfulness for helping people who are experiencing a variety of psychological conditions. For example, mindfulness practice is being employed to reduce symptoms of depression, to reduce stress, anxiety, and in the treatment of drug addiction. The practice of mindfulness also appears to provide numerous therapeutic benefits to people with psychosis and may be a preventative strategy to halt the development of mental health problems. The benefits of flow states are by no means limited to emotional well-being. Flow states stand as the primary component to success in all endeavours. Flow, or commonly known as the zone, is proven to enhance performance by up to 500%, boost creative insights, increase lateral thinking ability, supports confidence, and reduces anxiety. Flow has been identified as a necessary component to high-level performance throughout sports and accounts for the exponential growth of skill level that we have observed in the last 100 years. Flow is widely associated with music composition and creativity, as well as impressive feats of scientific breakthroughs and what is commonly labelled as genius. Characteristics of flow state. Singleness of focus. Research has shown time and time again that the human brain is incapable of performing two tasks that require high-level brain function at once. Low-level brain function, such as breathing and pumping blood around the body, is not considered multitasking. When we think we are multitasking, what we are actually doing is switching from one thing to another really quickly. This prevents us from performing to the best of our ability on a single task. Maintaining flow states require all of our attention to be fixed on the task and in the present moment. Adaptability and go with the flow. Flow is about continuous problem solving. During flow, an individual is presented with a series of obstacles which they must overcome. These obstacles may appear in the form of small tasks or direction-changing ordeals. Continually solving these problems is the defining factor to whether a person is successful in maintaining their state of flow. Failure to transcend the issue in front of them results in a feeling of being stuck and results in stagnation, frustration, and a cascade of unwanted emotion. This phenomenon could be considered the simple concept of adaptability as described by Charles Darwin. It is not the strongest of species that survive, nor the most intelligent. It is the one that is most adaptable to change. Ego loss. During these states of flow, people often experience liberation from the self, as they get somewhat lost in the activity they are doing. What this means is that the action and awareness emerge. Simply put, our attention becomes so fixated on the task in front of us that we temporarily forget many of our problems and distractions. This feeling of loss of self and freedom from the voice of self-doubt and worry is an intensely enjoyable experience. During flow state, time appears to dilate, meaning hours can fly by in what appears to be minutes. In flow, the action carries you forward in a positive direction, in a natural and effortless maneuver. Beijing Olympics 2008. American athlete Lolo Jones feels confident. As favourite to win the 100-metre hurdles, anticipation is high for both Jones and America. Right from the beginning of the race, Jones finds her stride and is quickly in the lead. With only 20 metres left between Jones and the gold medal, disaster strikes. Losing her rhythm, she clips the hurdle and watches as her competition passes by, as does her dream for Olympic gold. After giving it some time to process the disappointment from her fall, Jones conducted an interview with Times magazine where she reflects on where it all went wrong. I was in an amazing rhythm. It wasn't like, oh, I'm winning the Olympic gold medal. It just seemed like another race. And then there was a point after that where I was like, wow, these hurdles are coming up really, really fast. You have to make sure you don't get sloppy in your technique. I was telling myself to make sure my legs were snapping out, so I overtried. I tightened up a bit too much. That's when I hit the hurdle. Honestly, I should have relaxed a little bit and just run. Instead, I was so paranoid. This story perfectly explains how we often get in our own way through overthinking and excessive self-analysis. For many athletes, musicians, artists and creators, their best work is produced when they trust in their own ability and step out of their own way. Through repetition, we have developed muscle memory, a form of body intelligence that has the ability needed to overcome the challenge at hand. Barriers to achieving flow state. In order to achieve flow state, we must first step out of our own way. As a general rule, energy wants to flow. It is the barriers that we hold within our mind and within our body that prevents this natural state from occurring on a regular basis. When we release these barriers, we will find the flow state is an effortless process. Before we can begin to find flow state, we need to identify and eliminate these flow barriers. A barrier to flow is any obstacle that prevents positive movement in the direction of our goals. There are many forms of flow barriers that exist. For the purpose of this documentary, we are going to divide these barriers into two simple categories: physical barriers and mental barriers. Physical barriers consist of obstacles that exist in an individual's life in the form of tangible impediments. These barriers, for want of a better word, are considered to be real. Examples of physical barriers include lack of time, lack of money, commitment, responsibility, illness, disease, physical or mental health problems. Mental barriers consist of obstacles that exist only in the mind of a person. These barriers are the subject of somewhat of a delusion that a person that has convinced themselves as real. Examples of mental barriers include feelings of inadequacy, fear of failure, fear of what other people may think, comparison, and negative belief systems. The most significant difference between those who succeed and those that do not is the ability to overcome these barriers to flow. It is very important to note that for most people, what we perceive as a physical barrier or a real barrier is just a mental barrier. The science of flow. Scientifically, flow is known as transient hypofrontality, or the temporary shutdown of the prefrontal cortex part of the brain. Shutting down of the parts of the brain that we don't need for a single activity gives us the power to focus all of our attention on a single task. It frees us of doubt and self-analysis that often prevent us from progress. In flow state, 5 of the most potent chemicals are released into the brain. These chemicals are associated with many of the illegal drugs that can be found today. Serotonin tightens focus, boosts mood, and aids social bonding. Dopamine keeps us happy and motivated. Endorphins relieves pain naturally. Anandamine aids memory and strategic thinking. Norepinephrine helps to deal with stress. Hacking flow states. Used correctly, flow states can offer an incredible advantage in enhancing performance in sports, executing graceful dance moves, unleashing creativity in art, music and writing, building intensity through gaming, and building concentration through work and through study. In essence, flow states can be used to discover peak performance in almost any endeavour requiring concentration. Hacking flow state and finding states of incredible creativity, productivity and fulfillment is easier than you may expect. At Flow State Philosophy, we work with athletes, musicians and more to harness these deep states of flow for longer periods of time with increased results. The body. So far we have explored how the word flow has significance in our levels of happiness, fulfillment, creativity and productivity. However, the significance of my dream and the word flow was only beginning to reveal itself. After a period of prolonged struggle with my own health, I began to explore alternative healthcare options. This led me to discover that the concept of flow is highly regarded in many cultures around the world. My focus turned to Chinese medicine. In Chinese medicine, they have a core belief that in order to maintain a healthy body, the energy of a person must flow freely. Many treatment options have been developed to ensure that energy flows freely in the body. The energy of a person is said to flow through a number of energy centers, called chakras and meridians. This phenomenon is behind the logic of treatments such as acupuncture, reflexology, energy healing, and Reiki that are becoming increasingly popular in the West. Blocked energy in the body can cause a huge number of difficulties for a person. These difficulties range from muscle pain, headaches, mood swings, weakened immunity, dizziness, arthritis, IBS, skin conditions, and anxiety, to even more serious illness such as cancer and tumours. Energy can become blocked due to stress and emotions that are not processed correctly by the individual. With this knowledge, we can all look to keep ourselves healthy through self-care in regards to our energy system. Tai Chi, yoga, Qigong and many exercise regimes have been designed to do just this. Proper energy flow in the body demands that we as individuals begin to reflect and take care of our emotional well-being, ensuring that we are not putting our bodies under unnecessary stress. Studies have proven that regular meditation has an incredible ability to assist with the reduction of the stress response in the body. At Flow State Philosophy, we provide you with all the information you need to maintain a healthy energy system. Spirituality. The word flow and the dream that I had that night have proven their worth. There was now absolutely no doubt that flow plays a significant role in all of our lives, whether we are aware of it or not. As soon as I thought that I had revealed all the secrets of this special word, my attention was pulled to a new discovery, a direction that I could never have forecasted: spirituality. Growing up in my household, I often heard the expression, "go with the flow." However, it was never a concept that I put much attention into, until recently. Taoism is a religious or philosophical tradition of Chinese origin, which emphasizes living in harmony with the Tao. The teachings of Taoism originated from the classic text, the Tao Te Ching. Taoist belief is based on the idea that there is a central or organizing principle of the universe, a natural order or a way of heaven. The way or Tao could be likened to what we call the flow state. There are many teachings of the Tao, but they all direct focus on this simple concept. By going with the flow and not resisting the natural course of life, we can free ourselves of unnecessary suffering. There are many things we can change in our lives, but we must be able to accept those that we cannot. By accepting our reality, we can direct our focus on that we can control. This idea was one of the core teachings of the Buddha, who attributed attachment to the idea of suffering. rigid thinking limits possibility. We must be like water. Take water as it travels down a rocky stream. Water has a destination that it is travelling to. It knows it will reach this destination. However, it is not attached to achieving this goal by any particular path. If the water was to meet a stone in its way and insist that it wanted to go through the path of the stone, it would get caught and be left stuck in this position. This metaphor perfectly explains the importance of how we need to be willing to change our plans on a daily, weekly, yearly basis to suit the current trends of events in our lives.
This is what it is, okay? I said empty your mind. Be formless, shapeless, like water. Now you put water into a cup, it becomes the cup. You put water into a bottle, it becomes the bottle. You put it in a teapot, it becomes the teapot. Now water can flow or it can crash. Be water, my friend.
Martial arts is an excellent example of how a person can practice adaptability in each moment. They must adjust their posture, their game plan, and their skills to suit the present moment of the fight. If they do not adjust accordingly, they will be hit for lack of adaptability. The ego. In many spiritual traditions, the path to enlightenment is said to be the shedding of the ego. Ego is a false sense of self, somewhat of a delusion that we believe ourselves to be. We often believe that we are our car, our house, our friendships, or even our job. However, our true essence is far more than that. The brain is closely associated with the ego, as it stores all our memories, concepts, and judgments. By shutting down the brain and diving deep into the present moment, we may be shedding parts of our ego. Flow may just give us an insight to who we really are. The final piece of the puzzle. After exploring the flow state, happiness, productivity, healthcare, and spirituality, it all began to make sense to me. I began to get a feeling that flow was more than any of these things. More than a tool to help people perform to their best. More than a form of treatment for illness, and more than a philosophy of how we can live our lives free of suffering. On a larger scale, flow can be found throughout all things, throughout nature, throughout our daily lives. But what if we are not separate from this natural progression? Flow is the creation of new, the passing feelings we get when we see a newborn baby, the evolution of our species. This flow has the power to transcend us above duality. The flow acts like a code within our DNA, a natural expression of ourselves, or a natural expression of something bigger than ourselves. It doesn't require us to rationalize, to plan, to control, or to fixate. So what does this say for us? Maybe there is a code. Maybe we should trust in the unknown energy that surrounds us at all times. Maybe the idea of faith that all religion preaches should be held on to, even if we are not to follow what once was. Maybe if we trust in the code, it will flow and our energy will become vibrant and alive. Maybe we will feel the unity of what we are and where we come from. Each piece of the code unraveling before our eyes. Each person as connected to it as the next. Maybe we are all children of the code. Maybe collectively we control the code. Maybe we will never understand the code. Maybe we should care for the code. Maybe we should love the code. Maybe we should play the game. Maybe we are the game.